And let me just quote to you the ruling of Ayatollah Sistani as an example for this. He says that saying bad words, something which is considered ugly in that culture, is haram. It's haram. So swearing is haram. So why do we insist on doing it as Muslims? But this is just one example, but we have other examples as well too, of people who will, they'll do their prayers, they'll do their fasting, but they don't stay away from that which is haram. For example, haram music, or other things. Haram interactions with the opposite gender. And as a result, the person that they become is not a perfect person. Because if you want to see the effects of Islam, you have to get the complete package. You have to fly with both wings. If you're just flying on one wing, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's why we're told in hadith that one of the hardest things to do, it's hard to perform the wajibat. It's not easy to fast. But it's even harder to stay away from that which is haram. So this is the first reason, and now inshallah we'll mention two more reasons. Please recite salawat. Another reason we see why often or many times Muslims are not very Islamic is because they limit Islam to the prayer mat. They don't think of Islam as being something that applies to every aspect of our life. Okay, let me give you one small example. When we're saying our prayers here, we're lining up for congregational prayers. Okay, during the duration of that prayer, everyone's facing Qibla, going through a certain set of motions, they're disciplined. And at least in the men's side, we have this habit that after the prayer, we'll shake hands with each other. Now I'm sure you've seen this, that some of the brothers, I'm not putting blame on them, it's just out of ignorance, or just maybe they're hungry or something. But you see that when it comes to the prayers, they're following the rules and everything. But when it comes to shaking the hand, it's kind of like, it's like this, they're just kind of, it's like the last thing that they want to do. They're just getting over with as much as they can, as soon as possible. And you can tell that they had attention when they were doing the prayer, but as soon as it comes to looking at their brother and trying to greet him with a pleasant face, they don't have any care for it. They're just like, it's the last thing that they can care about. Let me tell you another story that kind of goes along the same lines. And again, this might be a funny story. It's not as funny as the other one, but you can still laugh. Again, it comes from somebody who, one of these worshippers, one of these people who doesn't have a good understanding that Islam spreads beyond the prayer mat. So what happens is one of these guys, this veteran prayer of congregational prayers, always there on time. He goes to an alim and he starts bragging. He says that for 30 years I haven't missed a single congregational prayer. Now, first of all, if this person is a true worshipper, he wouldn't be bragging about his good deeds. That would be between him and God. Anyhow, he starts bragging. So the alim asks him one question. He says, in all those 30 years, was there not a single time that somebody came to you at the time that you got to go for prayers, and you ignored them, or you said that I'll take care of your need later, and you went to your prayers just so that you could get there on time? And he thought about it and said that, yeah, actually, that happens. Because, in the course of 30 years, of course it's going to happen. How many times is it the case that you're about to pray and, somebody needs something? Like your younger brother or sister or your child, they come to you and they need something. So he says that, yeah, so that person says that, well, there's nothing to be proud about, the fact that you've done this, because in the process you've trampled over the rights of mu'mineen. The needs of a mu'min, if it's an urgent need, you have to perform that over the prayer, unless of course the prayer is going to become qada. But we're talking about somebody who's praying right on time. It's very important, brothers and sisters. I remember after I had my child, we were talking to one of the teachers, and he was giving us some advice. And he said that, something very interesting. He told me that, when it comes to your praying congregational prayers in the mosque, it's good for you to do that. But he said, don't go all the time. And imagine that this is a scholar of the Hawza telling me not to go to the mosque all the time. Just don't go all the time. Because if you go all the time, then your wife might feel lonely at home, because it's just me, her, and the child. And these types of things make you realize that, wait a minute, Islam is more than just on the prayer mat. Islam is about having a deeper understanding your responsibility in all different walks of life. Your responsibility towards other mu'mineen. One time, our 8th Imam, Ali ibn Musa alayhi salam, he was trying to describe how important it is for us to be aware of the rights of other mu'mineen, other believers. That includes the people around you. That includes our family, because we have families of believers as well. So in order to illustrate that, he quotes from his grandfather, the fifth Imam. He says that one time the fifth Imam, Imam al-Baqir, he faced the Kaaba. He was in Masjid al-Haram in Makkah. He faces the Kaaba. He says, Alhamdulillah alladhi karramaki wa sharrafaki wa azzamaki wa ja'alaki mathabatan linnas wa amna. He says, all praise is due to Allah, who has made you, has honored you, and has magnified you, and has made you noble, and has made you an anchor for human beings, meaning that you're a center to which all the humanity gravitates. And then he goes on to say, he says that, Wallahi, la hurmatul mu'mini a'adamu hurmatan minki. He says that the sanctity of a believer is more than your sanctity. Meaning that the believer has more of a right than the Kaaba. What would you do if you heard that somebody has gone and started taking an axe and chopping on the Kaaba? Or doing other things, like you're taking a gun and shooting at the Kaaba? We'd be shocked, right? Because that's something that means something to us. It's something that has sanctity. But the sanctity of a believer is even more than that, brothers and sisters. So we have to apply this. We have to understand, if we want to see the fruits of Islam, we have to see whether we're actually applying this in our lives or not. Now you might say that I don't have believers around me. In my school there's not too many other, there's no other believers, or maybe at work I'm the only Muslim. That's fine, but at least at home, we can start at home. If at home we understand that the person I'm dealing with is a believer and their sanctity is more than the Kaaba, well, that should transform the way that I deal with them. Then I'll start seeing that I'm acting the way that Islam is supposed to be practiced. The third example that we see of where Muslims, lack in their their Islamicness, like they don't display the benefits of Islam, is people who are imbalanced. Okay, people who are imbalanced and they mean well, they mean really well, but because of the lack of balance in their lives, they don't see spirituality come. Let me just give you a couple examples. Somebody who has a hobby, they like, I don't know, putzing around in the garage or something. They like playing with their car, just working on it, and it's something that they really like doing. Or like people who are younger, like people who like video games. Okay, it's a hobby. Now hobbies are not, Islam doesn't say don't have a hobby. You can have a hobby as long as it's halal, you pursue it, that's fine. But the key thing is balance. If somebody just pursues that hobby and then forgets about everything else, forgets about their responsibilities, they're not going to become spiritual people. Somebody who likes to do community service, which is a very good thing to do. We encourage everyone to come forward and volunteer for the community. Here in SABA, we need volunteers, people to do things. But if that becomes my life, and every night I'm at the center, and I forget about my other responsibilities. And when I get home, I tell my family that, I'm doing work of God. I'm a man of the masjid. Then eventually my wife will be like, okay, fine, if you want to marry the masjid, then that's fine. You can marry the masjid. But, last time I checked, you were married to me. And she has a right to say that. Now, the family doesn't have a right to say that, no, nobody will go and serve the community. That's important. But everything is in balance. If we're ignoring our obligatory duties to do things which are mustahab, things which are recommended, we're not going to see any spirituality, brothers and sisters. Another anecdote, I remember that one time we went to one of the teachers and we said that, what about mustahab fasts? What do you think about doing mustahab fasting? Like, is it something that we should be doing? How many fasts should we be doing? When should we do them? Outside of the month of Ramadan. He said